Hello and welcome to this RedMonk Conversation. My name is Kate Holterhoff, Senior Analyst at RedMonk, and joining me today is Jeremy Meiss, Director of DevRel at OneStream. Jeremy is alumni of CircleCI, Solace, Auth0, XDA developers, Ericsson, Sprint Nextel, and Hallmark, among others. I've just listed a little sampling here. He's also involved in the Linux Foundation and is a phenomenal public speaker. Jeremy, I am just so excited that you have finally joined me on RedMonk's podcast, the Monkcast, today.
The Monkcast. That's great. No, Kate, I'm glad to be here. I will say it's great that you could fit it in with my busy schedule and my assistant and all. No, really, it was a matter of me finding the time and then going, oops, sorry, and finally finding the right time. So
yes,
fantastic. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I am so glad you did make the time. What's great about our schedules and what we do, Jeremy, is that we often meet at conferences and I'll just kind of scan the room. And if I see blue, I'm like, oh my God, Jeremy's here. And I won't always know that you're at the same conference and you'll just be there. And it really makes my day.
Well, I appreciate that. No, it's very much the same, especially and you can attest, I'll text you and the other monkers. Is that what we're calling monkers?
Monks,
sure.
Usually.
Monks,
yeah.
The other monks. Sure. In fact, you all should have your own monk habits, not hobbits. That's the thing with the hairy feet. I don't want to see James's feet, but, or Steve's really for that matter, but but yeah, I will often text you all to find out, hey, are you going to be at said conference? And because I, definitely want to meet up and hear what you all are doing and hear what you're all talking about and what you're, ask you questions about said tech and whatever.
Absolutely. And you are an expert at that. I still feel like I'm learning from you. There's a lot to conferencing the right way, and you participate, I would say, at a 10. That usually involves like karaoke, attending all the things, knowing all the people, and usually giving a kick-ass paper. So, or I'm saying paper. That you can tell I'm an academic. A kick-ass presentation.
Very much academic. I have 12 hours of college credit to my name, so don't put me in the same. Don't say paper because I'm gonna break out in hives.
Yeah. No, it's I'm indeed recovering as an academic. It's still part of my lexicon. So always be kind. I'm slowly sloughing off the trappings of my background there. And Jeremy, you have correctly brought up beer for us. So what is the appropriate beer for our RedMonk beers on the Monkcast today?
Yes. So the beer that I am enjoying is called a Float On Limoncello. Let's put it in the frame. It's from Pathlight Brewing in Kansas City, which no longer has a retail establishment as of last month, but it is a lemon and vanilla sour ale with lactose for those that are dairy allergic.
Intolerant? Yeah.
There you go. Dairy intolerant. That lactose intolerant would actually be for that. But yes, it's very good. I'm not a big fan of sours, but I've started to find some sours that I like or that are not too astringent that makes your
you pucker.
Yeah, I don't need to pucker any more than I already do, and so so I found some, and this one's actually it's actually good. It does not taste like a limoncello term is. Sure, limoncello, but it is good.
I like a sour ale. Those are good. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Well, glad that we're keeping it on brand. RedMonk beers, Jeremy, the whole thing.
And with Monktoberfest coming up soon. Yeah,
I know it's coming up in October.
And we're already in July.
Yeah, let's not go there. The year is halfway done. Jeremy, I am so excited to talk to you about all the things. So let's begin with what you're up to at OneStream. What sort of projects are you working on?
Yeah, so OneStream Software, I joined coming up on a year now. We're at almost 11 months, but I am building a developer relations and developer experience discipline at the company. As they've expanded, they went public a month before I joined, which is on brand as well. I miss all of the fun, but as they're expanding as a company, they need to start reaching the developers who are implementing APIs and such within their financial systems for accountants. And so building up our developer experience, which we didn't have. And so that's been my main thing right now. But also once we have that in place, also doing the developer experience side of that, because I feel like the farmers guy, I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two at this point, like, developer relations and developer experience. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing there. So right now, the biggest project is, around, like I said, developer experience, but really focusing on bringing some developer documentation into play, and really driving a lot of our APIs, which we had a lot of APIs within the system, but not something that could be accessed from external sources to build those integrations and streamlining processes and such. And within accounting departments and all that. So yeah, I am building that within the company, and that has been quite a journey. Pretty exciting. I'm actually getting back to doing a little bit of development, 6 months to 9 months, that I have not done in years. So that's been good. I don't know that if anyone code reviewed that they would feel the same way, but I feel good about it. So that's all that really matters, because that's the developer experience, right? I feel good about it. Who cares? Right?
That's right. That's right. UX is right out. DevX is all the way. That's all we care about.
It's the new orange. DevX is the new orange. Doesn't matter what the previous color was. DevX is the new orange.
Yeah, we don't talk about end users here. They're really not important.
We can just deal with developer experience, because developers are the real kingmakers.
Indeed.
As somebody mentioned in some book that
somebody smart probably said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. So they're barely keeping you busy. You're doing basically nothing.
Right.
Develop, APIs, documentation, writing a strategy. Yeah, it's not much. All right. So we have not had a DevRel professional on the Mugcast in a while, and that is a shame, and that's on me. So I want to begin with, let's call it a DevRel State of the Union. A lot of drama in DevRel in the past 12 months. Has that cooled off? Where are we at? How do the DevRel folks feel these days?
Well, I feel like I have to ask the requisite drama. What drama would you be thinking of? What?
Yes.
Not a bunch of theater kids. At least not all of it. Some of us still are. No, I think it's been an interesting time. You had, for a long time, and I've been kind of, I hate to say preaching it, but I've been screaming it pretty much the same, I guess, from the street corners, or the tech street corners, whatever that might be, that we needed to change. We needed to really understand that as business changed, and the need to really justify, we needed to be able to justify what we're doing, just like anybody else. We're not special. No matter what, my mom used to tell me, I'm not as special as I want to be. And so you're going to have to justify what you do, because everybody does. And so for years, there's been kind of a, you can't quantify what DevRel does. It's all very anecdotal. There's no actual, whatever the opposite of anecdotal is. There's no quantifiable things. It's all qualitative, which is, I'll not cuss and just say that's BS. Or I'll cuss and say it's bullshit. You can edit out whichever one you decide. Because it really is. Yes, there are certain things that you are, qualitative. You kind of get a sense for it, and that, that as you have your ear to the ground and you're hearing what's going on, sure, that's great, what people feel about the product, but you have to be able to quantify things. And there are plenty of things you can quantify within developer relations, but it has to be tuned to what your company's doing, what the business is. And a lot of people in DevRel over the last 10, 12 years have not wanted to have those conversations with the business for whatever reason. I could probably list tons of them, but we don't have nearly enough time, and I don't have nearly enough beer. But so the discipline has had to go through a lot of growing pains around that. That's part of why a lot of companies, when they do layoffs, when they're not the like random layoffs that companies started doing where it's just, hey, we're going to do just a swath of people. Doesn't matter where they're at and nobody really knows. When it's targeted, DevRel organizations tend to be one of those that goes first. And that's because you get, especially when they get rid of the whole DevRel org, is you've not quantified what you do. You've not really been able to show the value and trace everything back to your, OKRs or whatever, fancy way you have to track things. You haven't been able to relay that. And so there's been a shift in understanding. And of course, those companies, when they get rid of their DevRel in community teams, like within 6 months to a year, they're hiring again. They're going, oh, whoops, we effed up. We forgot that we needed those people. They were actually doing this. And so I think there's been that upheaval. A lot of people have been in and out of different roles over the last year and a half, 2 years because of that. Some are still looking, but it's been interesting. And so I think there's been that shift. I've been advocating for a while and kind of wrote a number of things around this, but really been advocating that you've got to have those conversations. You've got to build relationships with your sales teams, got to have those relationships with your product and in marketing if you're not in marketing. And like all these things are good. It doesn't mean that you're devaluing what you do. It doesn't mean that you're not being empathetic, and it doesn't mean that you're not having the voice of the developer and you're not being like, you can do all of those things and still have a conversation with the sales team and also figure out what they're looking for and how you can help support them and still be developer focused. Like those are not mutually exclusive. So yeah, it's been an interesting time for the last, couple of years.
Okay. And have you seen hiring like leveling off? I mean, we heard about a lot of folks dissolving their programs, that there was no jobs. I saw many folks that seemed pretty desperate on LinkedIn. It's sad.
Yeah, there are, I think for the most part, I wouldn't say hiring's come back, but it has picked up.
Okay.
You do see a lot of roles out there. The problem is that you also see a lot of roles that keep popping up. It's because companies are terrible. The recruiting departments are terrible at doing recruiting. And LinkedIn is a giant dumpster fire when it comes to applying for roles. And the bots are crazy when it comes to that. And so like I tell people, if you're going to go apply for something, figure out what roles are out there and then go to the company's site to apply. Don't like just use LinkedIn because you're just lumping yourself in with, all of the other bad source material. So I think there is still some of that issue of, are the roles that are out there actually real? Or are they just kind of throwing stuff out there to see who's there? When I was looking at, a year and a half ago, there was, multiple roles that would pop up and then would interview for it. And then they'd say, yeah, we already hired somebody. And then it's like, okay. And then you'd see it again. You quiz them. They're like, oh yeah, we're just putting it out there. I'm like, okay,
What?
whatever. I won't name names of those companies, but they, I think there is that. There are some people that are still looking and have been looking for a while. And so there is that. But I think most of the people I know, for the most part, have found something or either found something steady or are still doing some consulting. But it's still tough across the board. But I am seeing companies start to hire and bring in. So yeah, long answer.
Yeah. And I'm curious, as I've talked to folks about their experience trying to find jobs as developers, what I'm hearing a lot of is it's not AI yet. I mean, that's ridiculous. But what it is this sort of post-ZERP economy. And there's an offshoring thing happening. And that's always been the case, I know. But I'm hearing of a lot of folks that are experiencing their entire org being dissolved and moving overseas, either to South America, if it's based in the US, or to India. So is that something where DevRel is also being offshored?
I think some companies have tried to do it in the past. And in fact, there are some, I hate to call it snake oil, but there are some organizations or companies out there that offer, hey, you can go to a DevRel university and become a DevRel out of college.
Yeah.
There is a pipeline of people that are trying to be this, I'd say like an offshore kind of view of that. I keep seeing them pop up and then I see them disappear. So I don't really think it's a thing, but I do see a lot more contracting or consulting or fractional DevRel kind of things popping up. So I've seen that, which has been interesting because there are a lot of those anyways and
Yeah.
have been around for a while. So uh yeah, some come and go, and so I think there is a piece of that, but I wouldn't necessarily call that an offshoring kind of thing.
No, I agree. Oh, that's interesting though. I spoke to some folks who are doing the fractional CTO thing, the fractional CMO. I have not heard of fractional DevRel, but that's something that you're seeing.
Yeah, I've seen a few people do that, a few
Ah,
companies offer that as a thing, whether it's actual fractional or just
yeah,
contracting, like
contracting.
call it whatever you want. It's contracting. Like,
Well, that helps me. As part of that State of the Union, so we have already mentioned AI as one must. But are you seeing that AI is helping in particular tasks in the DevRel space?
I have. I think some of it is just how you're approaching it. I think DevRel is about like authentic, empathetic interactions with people. Obviously, we know AI doesn't do that, can't do that, like because that's just it's not number one, it's not authentic, and
Hmm.
it's not really an interaction. You're just kind of interacting with a machine learning model with better compute. That's all AI is right now.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a piece of AI that I think if we embrace it and we learn how to use it correctly, and treat it like a junior dev and give it tasks to do, and then come back and review those and validate that that's what you want. And that, I think it works great for that. And so in the context of building out things within your DevRel organization, I think it works. I think you can utilize AI to help figure out, hey, here's the thing I want to do, have it do some searching. Google's deep research is a great thing within that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like you can use it to your advantage, but to produce final product, no. Just the same as you wouldn't want it to produce final production code, but you can use it to produce some pretty good, um, like bare bones stand something up to get an idea like an MVP, and then like you can use it to your advantage, but to do a full on thing, no, I think that's uh, definitely doing a disservice to your users and to the company that's employing you.
Yeah.
But I think there's plenty of reasons of why you would use AI and why you could use AI to do a lot of different tasks. Paige Paige Bailey from Google had a really great blog post about the different things that she automated a lot of the repetitive, mundane daily tasks that she does every day that have to do with some reasoning and have to do with, what are the top issues and she should look at that are from a repo and like certain constraining things that you can have something like AI look at and streamline and automate some of that. And it's not going to make final decisions, but it's going to give you what you need. There are ways to do it, but you can definitely see those that have relied heavily on DevRel to do their job because the content is just not great. And it's missing a lot of that personal piece.
Yeah, I was interested. Shonda Person, she posted a thing on LinkedIn about how at Netflix they're using it for writing documentation. And it seems like that sort of use case is pretty good. Like at least getting that first draft in. Obviously, you want to review it, but that's the sort of thing that I'm seeing it fixing a bottleneck. I mean, not many developers like to write documentation. It's not a lot of fun,
No,
but it's such an important piece. And yeah, like an exceptional DevRel experience is having that up to date documentation.
there was a great and to plug another podcast. There was a great podcast that Matt Stratton did with Arrested DevOps
Ah,
podcast with Cap Morgan. So about a month ago, that they talked about, kind of like the AI ethics, but it was really great. But they really dove into how to use it and how you can actually make it work for you without the finished product, but putting in the right constraints and writing the right PRDs and writing the documentation, all those things that could take you hours, 30, 40 hours of work could be done in a couple hours. And then you still are going to have to come back and look at it, but it's
yeah.
done a lot of that, busy work and heavy lifting. And then you come back and do the review and add what you need. So it was a great podcast, but it really, I think, highlighted a lot of the ways you can make it work for you without having to, just let it do everything.
Yeah. I love that it's both the busy work and the heavy lifting, because I totally agree. Where it's like super important, you gotta have it, but at the same time, it's like, I said what I said. Like, why do I have to keep repeating myself? Like, the code is here. Why do I have to show you how it works? Come on,
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
All right, so part of the conversation around DevRel that I like to have is sort of parsing out types of developers. And so a conference that you and I have both attended is Render ATL. It is hosted in Atlanta, and it is targeted to front-end developers and content creators. And been going on for, 4 years, I think, at this point?
I
A while.
think this was the last 5th year.
5th year. My gosh. Okay. So been around for a while, has a real following, a lot of folks there. It's great presentations. And in the past, you, when you were at Circle CI, have had a pretty good experience there at the booth. And I found this super fascinating, because when you think about, Circle CI, I didn't tend to think of them as being targeted to front-end engineers. And frankly, in the past, nobody's targeted anything to front-end engineers. Like, they weren't perceived to have any purchasing power. And so I would love for you to talk about, what is the value of DevRel reaching out to front-end engineers specifically in 2025? Why do this?
I think it has to come down to, one is like total addressable market from a business perspective. What are the things that your company does, or that developers can use, whether it's, front end, back end practitioners, ops, whatever you want to call that. It's going through that very real, like, understanding personas. And then there's always the edge cases that you don't think about. I think for me, I think a great example of that would also be like, at KubeCon London, Adriana and Marino gave a great talk on observability from the context and from really open telemetry of, like, there are a lot of use cases that are not just like code related. Understanding how your business processes are, and if those processes aren't working the way they're supposed to, and the results, like, for instance, Delta, like, it's not so much the code as much as you can have planes, the details on the planes when they land, when they take out, like, all the different metrics associated. You can utilize open telemetry observability type of systems to get that data. And that's a great use case that we haven't thought about before. If we just kind of say, oh, well, this is only for software developers. Okay, great. Or this is only for backend. But what about those people that still have to do things that are still kind of related to your core business? How are you meeting them? And so when it came to the front end developer, I've done front end development, I've done back end, I've done just about everything over my 30 years in tech. For me, it was understanding that people still need CI/CD, whether they are in front end or back end. The first time we were at Render, one of the first questions asked was, well, why is Circle CI here? And I was like, oh, great opportunity. I turned it back and was like, well, why wouldn't we be here? And the response was, well, we're front-end developers. We don't need to know continuous integration. We don't need to know, like, continuous deployment. We don't need to know how that stuff works. We just kind of push it over the wall, was kind of the way it was. And I'm like, that's exactly why we're here. Because it's not about pushing it over the wall. It's about how can you utilize these core principles of continuous integration, the continuous deployment. How can you put that into your day-to-day work and help with testing, help with feature flags, help with, like, all of these things are all part of CI/CD and overarching DevOps that we haven't looked at. We haven't thought about it that way. And they went, oh, and it turned out like that was a great show for us. First show back, which helped, but also, like, the number of conversations we had and the number of new customers we got as a company from that was very much front end driven. And a lot of the conferences we did over the next year at that point were kind of front end driven, but it was because there was this unmet market that we could speak to and that had actual needs that CI/CD could meet. And so I think that's the piece that especially DevRel organizations should definitely be looking at. But marketing as a larger piece of that is what are the areas that are maybe not using it the way that you want to use it, but still could use it. Um, Whether that's version control, whether that's different databases, whether that's image compress, like whatever the tech is, guaranteed there's other ways that they can be used that you've not thought of. Uh, and so get involved in those things, figure out what those are, and run a trial, see if it works, see if it resonates.
And you saw good results from that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you talk more
Absolutely.
about that? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was over like that event and then a couple other events over the next 3-4 months ended up being about let me think, close to almost 350-400,000 of pipeline just from those events. And those were not like huge events. They were like developer focused events. And they were heavily on I wouldn't say heavily on the more front-endy kind of side. But it was because, we were able to track what were the inbound, what was that opportunity, and could track it through. And again, I worked with our sales teams. I worked with our marketing team, our marketing ops to figure out how can we know how this stuff is working for us. And then, could go back and look at it and say, hey, this worked for us. We should do it this next year. Or we could say, yeah, that didn't really work, so we're not going to do it. Like it gave us better data that we could, make some decisions off of. And that was repeated across whether it was for front end, whether it was for even just DevOps days of just reframing how we interacted with attendees and how we did things that were providing them with value. And I'm not talking about like the tchotchkes and such, but giving them the opportunity to have a voice in not only the product, but also they were getting the opportunity to win a really cool gift. They could win a Sony headphones. People want to get a $350 set of like amazing noise canceling headphones, or a 1.5 foot tall R2D2 Lego set. Like they want that, so they will happily spend a 1.5 minutes to fill out a quick survey of 3-4 questions about how they use CI/CD, and also at the same time leave their company name and company info, and then answer the question of, do you want us to reach out to you about some sales opportunities? Yes, no. And do you want us to give you stuff on the developer things we're doing? Yes or no. And each of those went to different things. And we actually had at developer events, we had I think it was like 60% said, yeah, reach out to us from a sales perspective.
Wow.
Like I'd never had that before, but it was because we were doing some things that really have great conversations. So it's about like figuring out what people need and then go meet that, and then make sure that you're bringing back things that your teams inside the company want to know. So that helps.
Okay. That's useful. And so my takeaways from this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that when it comes to swag, go big or go home. Little things are just going to get thrown away. Big drawings for significant prizes are the way to go. That's just good advice. Okay. And the other thing that I'm hearing is that, and maybe I'm extrapolating here, that folks who are not already set on a particular product, that haven't sort of baby ducked on a certain technology, are actually a better group to market to because they don't have preconceived notions about what sort of tool is going to work best. They need to be educated, and there's the potential for them to be at the table for those sort of purchasing decisions in the future.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's bringing back and talking, like we all know from a developer perspective, like we get asked, hey, have you heard about X tool? And it's been proven, like I spent years in customer service, eons ago. Like it's people are more than willing to provide, their experience on something if they're asked specifically, and they're more than willing to tell about a bad experience than they are a good experience. And so like having that, and that comes back to a little bit of the like developer experience side, but it's also this just simple piece of figuring out what people are wanting, what they're needing, and help them understand how your tool might meet their needs. And then also be willing to say, you know what, you're a startup and what you're wanting, this is probably not the tool for you, but when you reach and give them actual things, when you start reaching these limits, come talk to us. We would happy to kind of help you, make that migration. The number of times that I had people reach back out and say, hey, remember me from X conference? We've now reached this spot and we're starting to see the things you were saying. Can you have somebody reach? Like that was a pretty normal thing to have people reach back out. So don't be afraid to say, no, this is probably not for you, but then give them but when you hit this thing, then it does. Have that conversation with them and then maybe follow up. And some would say, well, that's being sales. Okay. You're either making the thing or selling the thing. That's it. So get out there and have those conversations, and then you can turn them over to somebody that's actually going to nurture that side of it. But be willing to be a resource for potential users, potential customers, and don't be afraid to say no, but talk to me when.
This is all advice gold. Love it.
I don't know about that, but sure.
Okay. So the pandemic just destroyed developer conferences. Attendance was down. It's my understanding that in the US, it's still not back up. And a lot of this conversation is sort of revolving around the conference scene. DevRel does more than that. Are there other ways for developer relations to be reaching this audience that we are talking about here? Folks who need to be educated, who are interested, who might in the future say, hey, I now have a need for this 6 months later. How do you reach that audience outside of the conference circuit?
Yeah, for years, kind of the three-prong approach has been like code, content, community when it comes to those types of, especially within the developer relations space. And when you hit that, the content you create can be used, can be something that can take that place. People are starved, especially coming out of COVID, the lockdowns and such, but like people are starved for actual interaction. So they're, the in-person things are still heavy in the US. It was great for a while and it went downhill. A lot of that had to do with the US dollar, a lot of that had to do with the elections, a lot of that had to do with a lot of other things. But the reality is that in Europe, it's different. Like it's exploding.
Right.
Like KubeCon at London was the biggest that it's ever been. You had KubeCon Japan sold out. You've had like the opposite has been true. And I think some of that has to do with people are hungry for it. But when it comes to like those that, other opportunities, content is still a thing. Producing that content. And I've been a big proponent with the teams that I've had of creating content. If you're going to write a blog post, then chances are that should also, could potentially be a talk, which also could be a 5-minute video, which could also be a 20-minute video, which could also be a tutorial, which could also you can repurpose that content depending on your audience. So understanding your audience, understanding your persona, like that is even, I'd say it's even more important than it used to be. But you can shape that content to what they're looking for. And there are companies and tools and such out there to help you take, you produce this and then they can split it up into 5 different 5-minute videos or 5-minute, 30-second, like all those things. There are tools out there to do that so that you're not recreating the wheel, but having good quality content has always been a thing. whether that's a conference talk, whether that's a blog post, a tutorial, a workshop, a video. All of that has been an important thing. And the only way to get good content is to understand, not the only way, but the starting point for it is understanding who your audience is. And try some new things. Try it a little bit. Not every company, I mean, a lot of companies went out and bought, I'll say bought, they went out and bought DevRel people that had followings during the pandemic, which made sense because everything's online. But they thought that was going to continue for them. And there was a small window where the online conference, the online thing was a big deal. And then everybody got tired of it and everybody got like burnt out on that quicker than they could have gotten burnt out on other things. And some companies have just been like, oh, we're only going to do content. And they're missing such a huge portion of their potential market by not being where people are. So you have to figure out who your audience is, what can you tap into, who can you reach, and then craft accordingly. You should not be all or nothing. You should have a pretty healthy mix. You might have one area of that that's going to be heavier, but you should be doing all of those things.
Okay. So we've got our A content. Let's talk about the influencer part of this. So where you post it, who posts it. I know I've had some funny conversations with you where I've shown you a product and you say, they bought those followers, or those aren't real stars. No names, but these are conversations you and I have had IRL. So talk to me about that.
Part of that DevRel, like, and marketing and like the way you interact and reach out to people, influencing has been like, it's not a new thing. We've had that for, I mean, you really go back centuries. Like, this is part of the human psyche, is that what other people, we are very, very influenced by marketing. Any developer that says, oh, marketing doesn't influence me, but yet they have, 3 MacBooks and an app like that, and they're like, okay, cool. Like, it does. Like, or they're drinking 5 Celsiuses a day and they happen to like repeat the same words that come from like, marketing works. The difference is like making it so it's not so markety and it's actual relate. Like, there's differences, but they still are influenced that way. So we've always had influencers. That is a thing. I think the biggest challenge is how much you rely on them as a company when they will go, you're buying somebody's time. And if there's someone else out there that is going to pay more, they're going to go to that. Like, that's just the reality. Is I heard somebody say once, years ago, and I've heard it repeated many times, of like, you keep them how you got them. And
I like
if you're
that.
getting somebody or getting your content because they're just following some influencer that's been peddling, and I'll say peddling, that's a little, yeah, but has been essentially influencing, selling, whatever, putting their name on something to 5 different things over the last 2 years, when they go somewhere else, those people are going to go with them. They're just going to follow. I've spent a long part of my career in the Android development space. And whenever there was some custom developer that was creating custom ROMs, had a name, and then they would go from X device, like they were using HTCs, and then they went and used Samsungs. Like, all of a sudden people stopped buying HTCs and they went and followed and bought, like, it happens. And so if you put so much of your effort around trying to get people to your product based on an influencer, you just have to recognize that's probably going to happen. Doesn't mean that it's always going to happen, but that the mindset of somebody that's put their names on things and traditionally does that for a piece of what they do, and then could have 3 or 4 people they're doing it for. That's part of a business, and there's nothing wrong with it. But as a business and as from a DevRel perspective, you just have to know that if you put too much weight on that and not enough on the down in the weeds, and that you run that chance of having a very short period of time that your product is in front of everybody, and then all of a sudden it's not. So you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, I hate to use all these different metaphors, but they're real. We use them for a reason.
So a good DevRel strategy around influencers, whether they be influencers from DevRel specifically, or
Sure.
folks who maybe have a newsletter, or
Mhm.
maybe a YouTube channel that's popular, something like that, would be to just recognize that it's one part of the larger strategy, and not to devote too much time to it.
Yeah.
That's good. Is there a way that you?
And I know a lot of the influencers on the, I'll call them influencers, whatever you want to call them. I know a lot of them across the different tech space, and
Yeah.
they do great work. This in no way devalues that. I think they're extremely important, but a company has to they just have, it should not be the whole thing. Now, if you're a startup, probably there's a time for that. You shouldn't bring a DevRel person in as your first engineering hire. You shouldn't. You should be hiring a product marketer before you bring in a DevRel type of person. But for those, it's okay to contract out some, influencers to kind of get your name out there and help do that stuff. But no, that's a drop in a bucket. That's a, flash in a pan. It's a, I don't know, whatever other metaphor we
Yeah.
want to use. But it should not be the full, it's not the end all be all for everything you're going to do for the next 6 years. It should just be a short period of time.
And is there a way that you can recognize that this is probably purchased stars, purchased likes, purchased whatever? Like, what are the red flags that you look for when you're trying to figure out if this is, something where they're trying to buy their way into recognition rather than earn it through authentic engagement and good technical abilities, whatever?
Yeah, I don't know that I would have a silver bullet for that. But
Okay.
for me, I'll say, and this is probably going to come across weird, or wrong or whatever. But if I haven't heard, or a group of people that I trust have not heard about this product or this tool or whatever, I'm going to be a little suspect.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean that, I have the large, but I do know a fair number of people across like multiple verticals, to
Yeah.
borrow the term. But it's, if it's not, then I'm going to be a little suspect. There's a lot of hipster JavaScript programming frameworks that pop up every 6 months, and then they disappear and something else pops up, and it happens all the time. And so, like, for me, if I'm looking at a framework or something I want to mess around with, I'm looking at, like, not only when was the last update, but also, like, how long has it been around? What was it forked from? Like,
Yeah.
how many people are using the GitHub thing of the insights of, like, how many people are actually contributing to this? Like, what is the actual health of the project, or the tool or whatever it is, before I go and say I want to put my business around it, or around, like, hey, I'm going to devote the time and effort to something that is going to get replaced with some, fork of this, and now it's called this, and it's really just this with bells and whistles. Like,
Yeah.
we see it all the time. And so I think for me, it's a little longevity, seeing how long that is. And it doesn't have to be that it's like 6 years. Like, no, tech changes, but
Mm-hmm.
at least have some staying power, or have a good number of contributors. If it's just one contributor, then yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah, you're making me think about vanity metrics over time. So if a JavaScript framework goes from 0 to, I don't know what, thousands of stars overnight, maybe those aren't real. Maybe these are, yeah,
They could be real,
they could
but
be real.
they could be. I mean, that is probably based on uh, something happened, and everybody's like, oh, I really like this. I like the direction.
Yeah.
But that's why GitHub stars don't really mean anything, because it's like a Facebook like.
Okay.
Okay, they give a thumbs up. Cool.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, vanity metrics are good for a period of time, but you have to move from them to some kind of like results-based, some actionable type of data, not just it's really easy for somebody to click like or follow or like
Ah,
those are that requires
okay.
no real interaction. That's my
I
thing.
see.
That doesn't require much. You just
Okay.
click it. Okay, cool. It's like NPS, the net performance score or net whatever.
Hmm.
I think for the most part, it's just bullshit because
Okay.
all somebody's doing, they just have to click would you recommend this to somebody? Yes or no. Or between hey, what's on this scale? It's an arbitrary scale. It's subjective based on what somebody says.
Yeah.
Great. But what do you do? Like, I've hardly ever seen anyone take an NPS score and say, hey, you know what? They said that they would do this. Now let's reach out to them and say, well, hey, what can we do to help you share? Like you said, the person has said they would share. What are you doing with it? Oh, I don't. No, we just track the score. I'm like, okay, then it doesn't mean anything because you're not doing anything with it. It's just a vanity metric that helps you
Yeah.
feel like that. So there has to be something you do as a result of it for it to be any kind of actionable thing.
Okay. I feel like this is still an unsolved case then. So, if somebody goes viral on Hacker News, they might get all those stars overnight, but the
Yeah,
staying power is still questionable. Okay.
yeah, absolutely. It could.
So
And it,
the only way
yeah,
to know
what
is
is
if
it? Just
Jeremy's heard of it. This is what I'm walking away from. This is
no, please don't put that anywhere. No, not at all. Not at all.
this is
No,
what I'm hearing.
it's more, is it, yeah, it's that, how long has it been around? And
Yeah.
was that, X number, did that happen now? Or was that
Yeah.
like over time?
Yeah,
So
sure. I feel like there's a smell test involved too, there's the
there
equivalent
is.
of like, yeah. Ah,
Yeah.
jeez. Okay. Well, you are from DevRel, so you're just stuck in the mire of Ineffables, Jeremy, and there's
There you
just no
go. There
dragging
it
you
is.
out of there.
That's what it is. It just is. It's all just, who knows? Just throw it up there and yeah.
Spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, on that note, I think it's about time to wrap up. So before we go, how can folks hear more from you? Preferred social channels. I know you're going to some conferences in the not too distant future. How
Yeah.
can we keep track of your deep thoughts and all the products that you've heard of?
Gosh, deep thoughts. Well, jaredog.dev on Blue Sky. That is really like, if I post, that's where I post. I go between, I post a lot to, oh yeah, I should probably post something moments. That's probably the best way to keeping track there. jmeiss.com or jaredog.dev will take you to a website that I need to update. So, that's one of those things that's been in the works for the last year. And then I do have some conferences coming up. I'm going to be at Community Over Code, Community Over Code North America, coming up in, I think that's in September. Got that coming up. I've got KCDC, Kansas City Developer Conference is going to be the middle of August, as well as DevOps Days KC, both at the same time. It's DevOps Days KC is co-locating with KCDC. So go out to DevOpsDaysKC.org and you can get a ticket for both.
You're going to be at KubeCon, right, in Atlanta?
I'm planning on being at KubeCon in Atlanta. And then I will be at Monktoberfest in the 1st of October. And then I've got some other stuff coming towards the later part of the year. So but definitely jaredog.dev on Blue Sky.
Amazing. Okay. Well, I know I'll be excited to have a good hang next time I see you, Jeremy. And KCDC is on my list at some point. It's not going to happen this year. Maybe next year, 2026.
You definitely need to be there. It's a fantastic conference, largest in the Midwest, and it's great.
I hear so many good things. Really enjoyed speaking with you, Jeremy. Again, my name is Kate Holterhoff, Senior Analyst at RedMonk. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, and review the Monkcast on your podcast platform of choice. If you're watching us on RedMonk's YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, and engage with us in the comments.